Coming up on the Whitney Reynolds Show, we're talking about life and laughter.
The Whitney Reynolds Show is supported by Volvo, designed around you, and the Respiratory Health Association, raising funds and awareness for lung disease research and programs. Special thanks to the Autobarn Volvo of Oak Park, the Henry George School, and 27 Live.
This week on the Whitney Reynolds Show, we'll be looking into laughter and life. Laughter in hard times is good for both our physical and mental health, but some days we don't quite know how to find it. Today, our show is all about how laughter and life go hand in hand.
You're watching The Whitney Reynolds Show.
Neely Ben is a clinical social worker who works for North Shore University Health Systems. Neely is here to talk about how laughter is good for the mind, body, and soul. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so you use laughter with your clients.
Absolutely. It helps put distance between the stressor and their well-being, so it helps them cope better.
How did you figure out that this works? Because I'm thinking, like, you have clients that come to you, they talk about their different problems in life, and all of a sudden you're like, let's laugh about it.
Well, they come with heavy issues, and you can only stay in that energy for so long. You have to have distance from it so you can have humor about it, and it helps them get through it. You know, you can't be immersed in your pain and everything that you're concerned about, or else you're not going to make good decisions.
You know, you hear that saying sometimes that one day I'll laugh at this, but sometimes when you're in the midst of the flat tire, the rain, all that kind of stuff, it's hard to laugh. How long would you say is the appropriate amount of time for people to laugh at what's going on?
It's an interesting question. It really depends case to case on what they're experiencing, but the quicker that they can find the humor and the humanity in it, likely they're going to heal faster. So it's good for everyone, and family included.
So when you're working with them, do some people have a hard time actually being able to laugh? And what advice do you give them to get to that point?
If I catch them smiling, even a little, I'll extrapolate on that as best as I can. It's important because when they come in, there's so much that they want to say, and a lot of times when they're a new patient, they're very worried about what I will think, and if for a second they hesitate and feel concerned and worried, you want to be in that moment with them. So you want to be present, and if they laugh, if they begin to laugh, you go with them.
I'm wondering, has anyone ever got offended that all of a sudden you start laughing as they're telling you their problems?
It's a really good question. You just have to stay on their same page and energy so you don't overstep your bounds.
So it's been said in different studies that laughter actually chemically does something releases in us. Is that something that you found to be true?
It's very true. It helps your heart, it helps your immune system and your endocrine system, and it helps stress release. You feel better after you laugh.
So people that are at home right now,
yes,
we should tell them to laugh.
We should. You know, you might feel like you're faking it for a while, but it won't be. When I was training in New York City, they used to have laughter circles in Washington Square Park, and at first you would look at all of these people in a formation laughing, and of course it was forced at the beginning, but it's contagious. You couldn't help but laugh with them. Whether you want to stand with them is your decision, but we were laughing all around the park just watching. It felt really good.
So is this something that you have taken to all your different coworkers, saying laughter helps?
Absolutely. I mean, during supervision, we need to find those moments because they're really heavy issues that we're helping others through, and we need to take care of ourselves as well. I also lead a group on Wednesdays of individuals who have family members who are very mentally ill, and every group we laugh. We have to laugh. It gives a sense of community, people are bonding, it's so important.
Because if you can, and you see that sometimes, like the water cooler jokes, the water cooler conversation,
Sure.
It kind of breaks the ice.
Yes. It does, and it creates distance from the pain of what's going on. And you have to be able to look at it from a different view in order to move through it. And it's contagious. People are more attractive when they laugh. Maybe not necessarily physically, but you want to be around their energy.
Absolutely. So what advice would you give people at home if they're kind of going through a rough time and they're trying to get to that point where they want to laugh at it, they want to, like, what would you kind of work your patients through? Because we've identified that laughter helps life. It's probably going to elongate our life. If we can be happy through life, that's going to be a good thing. But how do we get to that point? Like if I was your patient and I was coming to you right now, and I said, you know, here's what I'm struggling with. Like how do you get me to that point to laugh?
It's really important to have connections in your social circle with your family. So A, you can start talking about it, but B, you have to find something that kind of makes you strong and makes you step back and look at the picture from somebody else's perspective. Asking somebody else would be a very good idea. And then together with a friend or assistance from a family member, find what humor would be helpful. You know, the situation when you're experiencing right now seems insurpassable. However, when you distance yourself, you can see it much more clearly. And even, you know, the whole fake it till you make it isn't, you know, it's very true. And if that's something you just need to start on your own, you eventually will do it naturally.
So when you get to that point where you can kind of step back and you can say, okay, this is what I've gone through, you're talking about it, and then you just eventually just find a way to laugh at it and kind of look at it through a different set. So what was it for your career that you figured this out?
You know, I see 7 patients a day. I lead groups up to 13 people. People have a lot. They're very brave to come to therapy and to talk about their issues and to stay wallowing in an hour of just tears and somber. It's not good for their heart. It's not good for their mind. Some sessions are very much like that, but they have to leave somewhat feeling like they accomplished something. Right. Somewhat. And so, and also, like I said earlier, laughing together with a person is a bond. And to have that in a community that's very heavy, you know, riddled with distress, it's very important to have that connection.
And after they find the humor in their situation, what's the next step from there? Is it just to continue to look at life through a different lens?
You've created a distance with the humor and with laughing, and because you're not surrounded by all of the stressors, you're able to look at things clearer. And then you can make better decisions. It gets you out of the place where you know, in crisis mode, essentially. It pulls you away.
Is there a fine line between laughter and then sarcasm? Because a lot of people say, oh, I'm just joking, I'm kidding, and they're like kind of telling the truth with it. So I think you have to be kind of careful with all of that.
As a provider, you look at sarcasm and understand where the truth is coming from, because sarcasm is another coping mechanism that is often a projection about how they're really feeling. So it's very, very different. You just, you know, you need to watch your patients closely and see how they grow, and that's how you determine kind of if they're using humor or sarcasm.
Okay, so finding the laughter in life. I love it. So thank you for coming on and explaining it.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
It's now time for the social sizzle, and our next guest is a perfect example of using comedy in the workplace to help ease nerves, stress, or whatever else her guests are feeling 38,000 feet in the air. Marty is a flight attendant who's created the Smile High Club and is leaving everyone aboard laughing in the clouds.
Pretend to have your attention for just a few moments. My ex-husband, my new boyfriend, and their divorced attorney are going to show you the safety features of Boeing 737-800 series. It's been a long day for me. To properly fasten your seatbelt, slide the flat end of the buckle. To release, lift up on the buckle. Position your seatbelt tight and lower across your hips like my grandmother wears her support bra. If you get mad, you want to take your toys and go home, there's 8 ways to get there. 2 forward exit doors, short wing window exits, 2 rear exit doors, signs overhead, disco lights on the floor lead each exit. Everybody gets a door prize in the seat back pocket in front of you, along with 30 diapers, chewing gum wrappers, banana peels, and all other gifts you leave for us from time to time. It's a safety information card. Take it out, check it out. You'll notice in the highly unlikely event that the captain lends us near a hot tub, everybody gets their very own teeny-weeny yellow Southwest bikini. One size fits all. Take it out on lift shoulder to do so. Place it over your head, wrap that strap around your waist, buckle it in front, and pull the tighten. Once that side pull down on the red tab, inflate to manually inflate below the tube at your shoulder. The flight attendants are coming by, hoping that you'll tell them how good looking they are. They're going to make sure that your seat backs and tray table are in their full, upright, and absolutely most uncomfortable position possible. And your carry-on items are crammed and shoved completely into the seat in front of you, leaving absolutely no room for your knees or feet. As you know, it's a no smoking, no whining, no complaining flight. It's a please and thank you, and you are such a good-looking flight attendant flight. Smoking is never allowed on board a Southwest. If you're caught smoking in the lavatory, the fine for that's $2,000, and if you want to pay that for your airfare, you should have flown somebody else. If we do make you that nervous in the next hour and a half, you're more than welcome to step outside. We don't discriminate at Southwest. We have a special smoking section just for you. We'll even show you a movie tonight. We have Up in the Air. And the flight attendant serving your name is Wendy, and her motto is, if you can light it, you can smoke it. Federal law prohibits tampering with, disabling, or destroying any smoke detector or webcam in either of our laboratories. Federal aviation regulation require passenger compliance with the lighted passenger information signs and posted placards. Basically, just do what we say and nobody gets hurt. And although we never anticipate a loss in cabin pressure, if we did, we certainly wouldn't be at work tonight. But if needed, 4 oxygen masks would off the compartment overhead. Stop screaming, let go of your neighbor, pull under that plastic tubing is fully extended, place the mask over your nose and mouth and breathe normally. To activate the flow of oxygen, simply insert 75 cents for the first minute and 50 cents for each additional minute. Although that plastic bag may not inflate, you are receiving lots and lots of gin. Oxygen, that is. And if you're traveling with small children, we're sorry. If you're traveling with more than one child, pick out the one that you think might have the most earning potential down the road. And if you're traveling with somebody needing very special assistance, like your husband, bless his heart, or your wife, put on your mask first. That's it for the do's and don'ts of show and tell. Sit back and relax, or you can sit up and be tense. Either way, it's not an hour and a half flight. Game to game, the clock's already ticking. Seriously, if there's anything at all that we can do to make your flight more enjoyable, please tell us. Just as soon as we land in Salt Lake City. And if there's anything you can do to make our flight more enjoyable, we'll tell you immediately. We're not shy in Southwest. That's what we call very cheap entertainment. Nobody had to pay extra, but you certainly don't get a refund. That's thanks for choosing Southwest. Welcome aboard.
Welcome to the show, Marty.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So tell us, you're a flight attendant for Southwest, and you have learned how to combine life and laughter in the workplace. And, flying sometimes is really intense. People, at this day and age, I would assume that most people, fly, they might get nervous, but they still know, how it goes. But then every now and then I get on a plane and someone is literally gripping the seat next to me. They are sweating bullets and they just don't like flying. So it is your job to not only, welcome them aboard and be with them, but I guess kind of ease those nerves. And I feel like you've really found an outlet to do that. So tell us, how did you come up with this little, I almost want to say it's almost like a comedy sketch you do?
I've been flying for about 9 years, and I think it's just kind of always been in my personality to make people laugh and smile. I laugh. I'm like, I never was the prettiest or the smartest, so I just kind of learned to, maybe be the witty one of the group. And I learned quickly, just like you said, flying is not fun and glamorous for most people. Most people, it's stressful. To get everybody, if you don't do it all the time, it can be stressful. So I just tried from the beginning to just kind of put my own spin on it. And luckily, the company that I work for, Southwest, lets us have fun at work, and they encourage it. And I found that people paid more attention to what we were saying. And like you said, I've had people that are gripping the side of their seats or crying or whatever, and it kind of makes them not even realize what they're doing. And so it just kind of takes the attention off of the stress and lightens the mood a little bit and sets the tone, and it just makes the flight, that much better.
So let's go back to basically your viral video that made it. You've been on several different shows. You're probably recognized on most flights now from that video. Did you know you were being recorded?
I actually did. I'll try to be really quick. I am a Texas girl, and I have a tendency to make things longer than I need to. But I'd had several people that wanted a copy of it, and I do it a lot and change it up a little bit. People wanted a copy, and honestly, I'm not that smart technically. And I was flying with one of my girlfriends, and I said, let's just videotape it because you're with me. And we had an extra flight attendant, so it was on my phone, obviously videotaped the wrong way, wrong direction. And so we just videotaped it, and I was trying to send it in an email. I was trying to send it in a text message, and it was too long. And I had it on my phone for a month probably before I finally got the advice of friends. And they were like, just put it on YouTube. That way they can go look at it. I had never really looked at YouTube that much. So honestly, we put it on one day and put it on Facebook, and it just exploded. Nothing I planned on or ever imagined that would happen. So it was very unexpected.
So is that the one you use every time on flights, or do you change it up?
I do change it up a little bit. Obviously, at 5 o'clock in the morning when the businessmen are drinking their coffee and reading their paper, I try not to do my little stand-up comedy routine. And I try to change it up if there's something funny going on in the news or anything. Depending on who I'm flying with, I try to change it up. But it's like I tell everybody, there's only so many jokes I can do about an oxygen mask and about a life vest. But I try to just change little things here and there. And, I find that really any little thing that I can do to make people laugh makes a difference, even if it's one or two lines and not doing the whole thing every time. But it's people love it, which makes it more fun for me too.
That is awesome. You know, I've been on several different flights where they either sing something, and it does make you pay more attention. It does make you laugh and realize, okay, maybe we shouldn't take life so seriously. And that's one thing about this show that we've been talking about is just the combination of the two and how laughter always makes things a little bit better. How has laughter changed your life?
I mean, so many ways. I think because, a mom, I just have always, my parents, there's always a lot of laughter in my home. There's a lot of laughter now in my home with my kids. And I just have never been the one to take myself so seriously. And seriously, it's like I said, I'm not the prettiest or the smartest. And I have always kind of been able to make my friends laugh and smile. And it just, life is hard enough as it is, and I just try really hard to bring joy, pay it forward, make other people's day, and I find that it's not that difficult, and the kind of the more I give, the more I get back, and I don't know, it's just it makes you feel more connected to people. I mean, and on the plane, I get to do that with hundreds of people every single day. So laughter's always been a huge part of my life.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's now time for the viewer's voice. This is where we have you, the viewer, weigh in. This week's question is, how does comedy affect your daily life?
Comedy is important because it keeps you smiling throughout the day and just through life. It just keeps you going.
Comedy is the spice of life. It's everything, man.
Well, what's the best medicine? Laughter. I think laughter is the best medicine because whenever you're feeling like you're down in the dumps, laughing is always good. It's one of the best medicines for you.
I think it's great if people relax and just enjoy each other and have a good time. It's a fun experience for everybody involved. Makes everyone happy.
Comedy is very important in my life because if we didn't have comedy to talk about some of the really darker stuff in life, I think we'd all go crazy if we couldn't laugh at it a little bit.
Well, like the world, without comedy, like the world would be like very kind of like serious. So, it's like, it kind of like helps to like relieve us of all that stress.
I mean, like, it's what gets you through the day. When I have a bad day, I know I go home and I watch The Office for 5 hours. And I feel like sometimes life can get really serious and it's just important to take time to laugh and have fun. And people forget that a lot today because everyone's so busy all the time. So I just think comedy is a really big deal.
Next on the show today, we have with us Tim Kazurinsky, a comedian, professional actor, and screenwriter who is also a former SNL writer and cast member. Tim has worked with the Second City, starred in the Police Academy movies, and is currently in the play Funny Man. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So today is all about laughter and life and how they correlate, but you're like our expert comedian that's on the set with us today. Yeah. So what was it like being on SNL? Is everyone just that funny?
Yeah. But I worked for 4 years at Leo Burnett. About 7 years at Leo Burnett Advertising, and everybody was funny there. I mean, the people at Burnett were kind of almost as funny as the people at SNL. But there's funny people everywhere. It's just, we were lucky enough to get on that show.
We have a couple of funny ones on set with us today. Yeah. So I love what you're saying because that actually goes hand in hand with what we're talking about. Basically, funny is all around us. You just have to sometimes find it. Yeah. So how did you develop your skill? So are you a comedian or are you a comic?
I was a writer. That's actually the show. The play Funny Man investigates that. Bruce Graham wrote this wonderful play Funny Man, and there's a line of the George Wendt, who plays Funny Man. It says somebody calls him a comedian. He says, "I'm not a comedian. Comedians say funny things. Comics say things funny." So a stand-up comedian has writers, and they buy jokes from odd little people that live in Brooklyn in small apartments.
Like a
they
joke
buy their
trade.
jokes, yeah. And so that's what comedians do. They say funny things. Comics are people that take other people's words and say them funny. They deliver them in a funny fashion. Comedians aren't necessarily funny actors, but funny actors, can take a script and be hilarious in it. I mean, Alan Arkin, funniest man in the world. If he tried to do stand-up comedy, it would probably that's the difference.
So what do you identify with? Like, are you a comedian? Like, what do you consider yourself, an actor? Like, what would be your number one, like?
I was a screenwriter for 20 years, so I consider myself a screenwriter. But then I consider myself an actor who is probably more a comic actor than, even though I'm in a very rather serious play right now, generally a comic actor, yeah.
Is it something?
I'm a comic rather than a comedian.
Okay, so we answered that one. You're a comic. But with that, like when you were growing up, did your mom say, "Oh, Timmy, you're gonna be a comedian one day. You're so funny." You know, did she do that? No.
No. And I wasn't even a wise guy in school. This
Oh.
all came much later. I was actually sort of shy, and I was in the ad business until I was almost 28, and I took a class at Second City to get over my fear of presenting the commercials. And people laughed. And so, but back then, we had a lot of costumes. Now, improvisers, they think it's, oh, we don't need costumes, we don't need props, we don't need that stuff. They're too cool for the room. Back then, backstage of Second City, there were Nazi helmets, Viking hats, swords, guns. It was a total playroom. And for me, putting on a bit of a costume, I could hide behind that and become a different character. And I loved it, and I found out I was a funny person.
So one of the things we talked about earlier is finding the comedy in everyday life. Like when you can take your hard situations and learn how to laugh with them is really kind of a blessing in disguise, and something that can actually be really funny, even though it's kind of your own life you're laughing at.
Yeah.
Is that something that whenever you've been working on different sketches or different plays, or when you've been screenwriting, is that something that you've ever done, is looked at your own life and found the funny?
Yeah, the irony, the absurdity. Abraham Lincoln once said, I think just about every man is as happy as he makes up his mind to be, which was a rather liberating thing, because I thought, of all the people in my life that I just around, the fair weather friends as opposed to the foul weather friends, and we're going, oh, those people are never going to be happy. Those people that are down out, they're always calling up and complaining, and they're just around when they need, that always need. They're never going to be happy. So it was like, why not hang around the happy people, and the people that are cheery and like to have a good time? And it was like, oh, duh. Those are the people to hang with, and there's a lot of them out there, actually.
The Happy Club.
The Happy Club, yeah. I mean, they're neighbors. They live down the street. They're in offices. Yeah, seek them out.
I love when you surround yourself with positive people.
Yeah.
I think it can be a life changer.
Yeah.
So going back to SNL, when you were there, like when you watch SNL, they take on the different characters. Are these characters that sometimes are reoccurring people on the show? Are they actually like real people that they have found, like a life of someone that's really funny, and they imitate that?
Right, yeah. It's a combination of the people come in with ideas and characters, and also there are terrific writers. I mean, the first 5 years of the show, an unbelievable writing staff. That's why I think they were the best 5 years, because they had phenomenal actors, but they had incredible writers. Marilyn Suzanne Miller, Michael O'Donoghue, Senator Al Franken. I mean, they had great writers. So, yeah, people come in with little bits and little characters and stuff they've worked up at Second City, or they come in with bits, but there's a writing staff that really helps them hone and shape those things and make them really hum. Yeah.
So one last thing. I've had friends that work on different shows for comedians, and they would actually make their staff listen to their jokes before they say them on the evening shows and see how funny they are. Do you have a funny gauge?
A funny gauge?
Like, is your wife your funny gauge?
Yeah. Well, the bottom line is, if people are laughing, it's funny. If you tell a stranger, somebody that, preferably not your wife, but if people laugh, it's funny. If they're not laughing, it ain't funny. It just, sometimes things will happen in my bottom line is, you don't cut funny when you're working on a scene or a sketch. And if somebody laughs at it, keep it in, because there's something organic about it. Don't cut funny.
Well, what's next for you?
I've been working five years nonstop, back as an actor again, and what's next for me is nothing. I'm taking 3 months off and circling the wagons and getting my house in order, and I'm actually going to Italy with my wife. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, that'll be really
and
nice.
And then when I get back, in about 3 months, I'll think about doing another show. Yeah. But I'm loving doing stage work now. I hadn't done it for 20 years, and I'm back on stage, and that's the drug. Instant laughter from the audience. You do something, you get it, you get the reaction. Yeah, it's better than, you do a film, you have to wait 6 months to hear people laugh at it. It's like, no.
So for all of our viewers that think they might want to be comedians, what advice would you give them?
Take improv classes.
Oh, really? You think those really help?
Oh, God, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and write down your bits, write down your ideas. Get a sketchbook, keep a journal, keep it by your bed at night, write it down, you get a character, get an idea, keep writing, because it will fly out of your head so fast,
And look into your own life, because you can find a lot of laughter there.
It's all there.
It's all around you.
Our guests this week have proved that laughter is good for the soul. We can hit bumps along the road, but if we find laughter in our daily lives, in our work, and in others, it will help each day be a little bit brighter. For more information on today's show or to see the outtakes, visit WhitneyReynolds.com. The Whitney Reynolds Show is supported by Volvo, designed around you, and the Respiratory Health Association, raising funds and awareness for lung disease research and programs. Special thanks to the Auto Barn Volvo of Oak Park, the Henry George School, and 27 Live.